Tricks, are they really just for kids? On this episode, we'll be hearing from 4 Fitchburg students and their experience with various tricks. From Halloween haunted houses to sibling rivalry to April Fools. From This American Life, this is your host, Andrew Kazianowicz. Act 1, we will be hearing from Mary and her experience with April Fools. In Act 2, we'll be hearing from Stephanie talking about her aunt's card tricks. Act 3, we'll be hearing from Courtney and her trouble with sibling rivalry. And to wrap up our program, we will be hearing from Lindsay speaking about her time being a trickster in a Halloween haunted house.
What exactly is April Fool's Day? On the 1st of April, we get the privilege to trick whoever we want with a funny or maybe even a scary trick. It's the one day that gives everyone the opportunity to act like a child again. When asked about April Fools, almost everyone has at least one year they can remember. Whether you get someone with a good joke or it was performed on you, you will always remember it. So I can tell you about an April Fool's experience that has haunted me for about 4 years now. I thought I would be cool and get someone with a good joke in my house. I decided to do the well-known joke of putting an elastic around the sprayer of the kitchen sink. I was so anxious to see who I was going to trick. After about 2 hours, I needed the sink to wash a bowl. Forgetting completely about my joke, I was the one to get soaked by the sprayer. I was in shock that I fell for my own prank. One day I asked my mom to go on a bike ride after we ate lunch. She had no problem with it, but I noticed my brother Mark chuckling a little when I was getting ready to go outside. I didn't ask him what he was laughing at. I just wanted to go for my bike ride. I found a bunch of change on the ground while I was riding on the sidewalk, so I got off my bike and found 5 quarters and 3 dimes on the ground. But when I went to go pick them up, they were stuck to the ground. I had figured out why Mark was laughing. He went out before lunch to glue the coins to the sidewalk because he knew I would fall for it. Unfortunately, I could never get back at him. He always saw my tricks coming from a mile away. I interviewed one of my friends, Amy, down the hall in my dorm if she had any April Fool's days that stuck out in her mind. She laughed before she even started to tell me her story. When she pulled herself together, she finally told me what she did to her sister. Well, she said, I went quietly to my kitchen and got the clear plastic wrap from the drawer. I put a piece of the plastic wrap between the toilet seat and the lid and sat out near the bathroom door waiting for someone to go in. My sister was the victim. I knew she fell for the trick when I heard a scream, and let's just say she wasn't too thrilled. My boyfriend John was the next person I interviewed about April Fool's Day. He said that he had done many fun things to his siblings, but one time he got them pretty good. He stated, once I tied a piece of fishing line from my sister's door over to my parents' doorknob across the hallway. The funniest part was watching them both try to open their doors at the same time when I knocked on them. Sounds stupid, but we actually got a good laugh out of it. So don't just let the next April Fool's Day pass without tricking someone. Try to think of something creative, or you could even just steal one of these ideas. Just make sure you don't get the wrath of your own joke. Trust me.
Magic card tricks. When I was a little girl, I would spend all of my time at my Aunt Sue's house. Almost every weekend we would either go out someplace new or familiar or just stay inside and play card games. One day when I was 8 or 9, my aunt and I decided to stay in and play some card games. She sat me down at the table in their dining room and sat across from me. Okay, she said, this is a card trick that I learned a while ago. Watch closely and see if you can see how I did it. I nodded. I kept my eyes glued to the cards. My Aunt Sue shuffled the cards, picked out the cards that played in her story. She picked out an ace of spades, queen of hearts, and 3 jacks. She put the rest of the cards aside and as the house. One day, she said, there was an old lady, the queen of hearts, was walking down the street, then 3 burglars, the jacks, ran over to the old lady, took her invisible purse, and ran into the house. My aunt put 1 jack on top, 1 on the bottom, and 1 in the middle. Then she started again. The old lady yelled for help. Then the policeman, the ace of spades, walked over to the old lady and asked her what was wrong. She told him that their 3 burglars took her purse and ran into the house. My aunt told me this, and by this time my eyes were glued to the house. The policeman went to the top floor, and the old lady went to the bottom floor because she was too weak to climb the stairs. My aunt then took the deck of cards in her hands, cut it in half, turned them around, and then smacked them together. She fanned the cards apart and took out 5 cards that were together. She flipped them around to face me, and there were 2 jacks with the ace of spades, and then the queen was with another jack. And then she said, they all came out together. I was baffled out of my mind. How could she get the jack in the middle of the deck out to be on the end? I sat there for what felt like forever, trying to figure out how the jack got to where it was. I racked my brain asking her everything I could think of. She just smiled at me, saying no. Finally, she decided to show me. She started the story again, telling me piece by piece of what she did and where the cards went. When she finished, I was amazed at how I wasn't able to figure it out. But now I knew. What was the card trick that she told me? Well, that's for me to know and you to never find out.
Family tricks are things that have been around for hundreds of years. Generations and generations of families have been lying to their children, tricking them into believing in oversized rabbits that leave baskets of toys and hide colorful plastic shelled eggs filled with candy and small toys. Or a little fairy that goes into your room while you're sleeping and retrieves a baby tooth from under your pillow in exchange for $1. They even tell you that a big fat man dressed in red slides down your chimney every Christmas Eve and leaves presents underneath the decorated evergreen, and you must leave him milk and cookies. All this is told to you just to find out, in great disappointment, that none of it's real. Well, I honestly can't remember when or how I found out Santa, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy were really just my parents, so it obviously didn't affect me very much. But what it did affect me was what my sister used to tell me. My sister Ashley was born 14 months before me, and we were best friends when we were small. But being 14 months older, that made her much smarter and wiser than me in her eyes. She used to tell me all these crazy stories, and I would always believe her. One hot summer night, it was thundering and lightning. I must have been 5 or 6 years old, minding my own business. She came up to me with a concerned look. "You know what it means when it's thundering and lightning?" "God's bowling," I replied. Another trick my dad made me believe. "Nope. I bet you didn't know that we live inside a gigantic man, because one day he swallowed the earth. And then when it thunders and lightnings, it means he's hungry and he can't find anything to eat." This automatically made me cry my eyes out in fear. For about a year after that, whenever there was a thunderstorm, I would hide underneath my bed and cry, "He's hungry, feed him." But then I realized that if we lived inside a gigantic man, that he would have to swallow the sun too, and that was impossible. Another day, we were playing in the backyard, and she told me that the gigantic leaves in the yard were salad, so I ate them. Another time she told me that if I bit into the earth's crust, I would die. I thought that the earth's crust was bread crust, so I wouldn't eat bread for a while. I look nothing like my sister and younger brother. They both look exactly like my father, dark hair and tan skin. I look like my mother's side, but not like my mother. She would always tell me I was adopted and they found me in a trash can. I guess older sisters like to torture their younger sisters. To show from an older sister's perspective, I have a friend named Jackie. Jackie has a sister who's 8 years younger than her, named Nikki. One day Nikki was aggravating Jackie, so she told her that she had a tail at birth and it was removed, put in a jar, and placed underneath her older brother Matt's bed. This made Nikki cry and ask her mother if it was true, and Jackie's mother was furious with her. But she continued to tell her that. Nikki never dared to check because there was still that small doubt in her mind that she would find a tail under her brother's bed. Eventually, Nikki just stopped believing her. I guess it's just sibling rivalry, or maybe it's just part of the job description for being an older sister. But I was eventually an older sister, and I never caught on to tricking my younger brother. Either way, there will always be an older sibling tricking his or her younger sibling.
Most everyone has been to a haunted house. Perhaps it was the type that left you disappointed and unamused with lack of fright. Maybe it was the type of haunted house that awoke every terrified nerve in your body and left you on edge. Either way, the people in every single haunted house were actors. They had to make you believe in the mayhem and horrifying situations they were in. I got to be one of those actors at a haunted house a few years ago. There was a group of us that all got together from ages 9 to 56 to put together a truly frightful haunted house. We all broke up into groups, and we each had our own room to create a fearsome scenario. We spent quite a few hours trying to think of the perfect idea, one in which we could all have a part, but one that was genuinely scary for people of all ages. After quite a few hours of deliberation, we finally decided on our plan. There were 3 of us in my group, and we decided that for our room, it would be a trip to the emergency room gone terribly wrong. We got together every week and kept trying to make the scariest and most believable scenario. Each week became more involved, and I was really looking forward to putting on the haunted house. The night finally came. After all our planning and practicing, we finally had to put it together and show everyone the haunted house that we created. Our room had me as the patient, who was being attended to by the psycho doctor and his equally as scary nurse. As I was talking to them about what was wrong with me, they took a knife and started stabbing me. With every brutal stab, I screamed louder and louder until I finally lay dead on the table. I lay under the blanket in my comfy sweats, but the cloth laid on top of me was evident of the brutal stabbing with blood stains all over it. Or red dye, whichever you choose to accept as true. The whole concept was seemingly believable as I heard a little girl ask her mother if I was really dead. I must admit though, trying to explain to everyone why I got laryngitis from screaming for 3.5 hours was quite a story.